Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Debra Eckerling, author of your Goal Guide and creator of the Deb Method for Goal Setting Simplified. I love all things goals, and I specialize in pre-event planning because when you're going to an event or a conference or whatever, Michelle's going to be nodding, you need to have a plan to turn those leads into action and the information into elevating your business. Every Sunday night, I lead the Goal Chat Twitter chat, and then on Mondays, I bring in 3 friends to dive into the topic of the week. And this one is endurance, so it's going to be fun. Well, they're all fun. Come on. It's fun. We're talking about goals and endurance. What's not to love? Anyway, every week I lead the Twitter chat, and then we have this great Goal Chat live conversation. And then Thursday, it magically becomes an episode of the Deb Show podcast. So whether you're watching live or the replay or listening to us, we are glad you are here and choosing yourself to learn what you need to do to live the life that you want. And great guest, per always. Today, I have my journalist cohort friend, Brian Fishbach. So great to have usually people don't watch our conversations, so this is going to be fun. Michelle Nicole McNabb, usually people totally watch our conversations. Also going to be fun. Michelle is an event genius, so how could I not have her talking about endurance? And this I love. So Seth Goldstein, we've been friends for now like 10 minutes.
Feels like forever.
It does. Wait, in a good way though, right?
In a very good way.
So Seth falls into the category of FOA, aka Friends of Annie, aka Friends of Annie P. Ruggles. Basically, anybody Annie says I need to be friends with, boom. But here's the fun part. Michelle and Seth know each other.
Mm-hmm.
So usually the people who come on here don't know each other that well. So I love that I'm totally one-upped by my guests knowing each other. So I know this is going to be a good one. So thank you all for being here. I would love to give you all the opportunity to like say things about yourself, considering all I said is you're awesome, which although true, probably not so helpful for the audience. So Brian, please share who you are, what you do, and why you're so excited to talk about endurance.
Well, first of all, thank you, Deb, for having me here. I know that I wanted to be on this show for a while. I'm glad that our calendars aligned and this was perfect. First of all, I know Deb because we both write at the Jewish Journal of Greater Los Angeles. She covers food, I cover entertainment. Together, we make movies about throwing food. No, that hasn't happened yet, but it should. I'm a journalist. I also write for a website called Rock Music Life. It's a music, sports, and culture website. Lots of really cool interviews that we do. And really just happy to be here and share and learn tips of endurance. I've got some crazy ones that I love to share. Looking forward to hearing yours.
Awesome. And I have to also say, so Brian was totally game when I was going to do a show on Halloween. And then I couldn't find 2 more people who wanted to talk on Halloween. So I appreciate your
I was guilty of that.
Endurance. You weren't the only one. I think after about 6 people, I said, you know what, Deb? We're going to take the week off. It's a holiday. So thank you for enduring. Love the theme already and joining us. And again, great to see us. Thank you for that rim shot, Seth. Welcome.
Hey,
who are you? Why are you here?
Oh, I'm on. Oh no. I'm Seth Goldstein. I'm a former journalist, a recovering journalist, turned digital marketer. So I joined what we at least used to say over in the journalism world, the dark side. Didn't go into PR, went into digital marketing, and slowly ventured back a little bit into journalism as a podcaster. So I have my own podcast, Entrepreneurs Enigma and Digital Marketing Dive. So I've been doing this for 15 years now. Met Michelle Nicole McNabb along the way. And we help companies get found online through web design, social media, SEO, all the good digital marketing tools and techniques. And then we have entrepreneurs on the podcast and digital marketers.
And why do you love this topic?
Because it takes a lot of endurance to do all that stuff. For real. I mean, I also have a newsletter called Marketing Well, I say Junto. It's actually Junto. But Marketing Junto, because I don't say anything correctly. And it's a weekly newsletter. It's a twice weekly podcast. And luckily, Digital Marketing Dive is on hiatus. I couldn't do three things at once. And I run a business and have a family. So it takes endurance, people. It takes endurance.
It does.
Or insanity.
And so Brian totally outed me as a writer because it's total. If I didn't want you to, do you think I would have had you on my show?
That would have been a nice warning to have before starting. Don't tell anyone that I write.
Okay, this is funny and has nothing to do with anything. But I worked in business for many years, and I used to not tell people I was a freelancer. And this back when I worked in corporate, one of my bosses came in and said, "Did you know there's another Debra Eckerling who writes for Venice Magazine?" This was like in the early uh-ohs. And I'm like, "No, it's me." He did not believe that it was me. So since then, yeah, I tell. Don't ask, don't tell. Totally tell. But as multi hyphenates, we all do a lot of things. It's just a matter of what you lead with. But anyway, so we accidentally have 3 journalists on the show. Woo. Yeah. See, I just can't get away from writing, which is fine. It's not a bad thing. So Michelle, do you write too?
No. I mean, I could if I need to, but no. I'm definitely more of a video vlogger. I've actually been vlogging and have old school tapes from 2004, 2005. So video has always been my form of media, and then conversation. So writing, can I do it? Sure, is definitely not my favorite. I would much rather have a conversation video and then repurpose that into some sort of written piece of content rather than starting with the written piece and turning that into media.
Okay then. Boy, we digressed early today. Yay, go us. Why don't you share who you are and why you were just like a must to have in this conversation?
Well, thank you for having me again. I was actually on your podcast earlier in the year, I believe, and we had such a great time. And so thank you for inviting me here to join this conversation. My name is Michelle Nicole McNabb, and I run an event management agency where we specialize working with companies that leverage events for business. And so our clientele and who we're really working with is they already see the value and the power of events. Rather, the format could be on site, virtual, or a hybrid. But what we're looking for is really the format of the style of the event being for business purposes. And that could be for collaboration, revenue, rather than entertainment or community events, right? So we really focus in the B2B, the association, the networking, the thought leadership, conferences, trade shows. That sort of format is our specialty. And we work with teams to help systemize the before, during, and after. That's how Deb and I got introduced. And what she does is really aligned in what we work with those teams. And then we can start with the strategy, go into the event planning. And so I always say event planning beyond the logistics, right? Who needs to be where and when, what needs to be where, how does it get there is one component. But then how are we going to justify and implement what's going on, not only as an event host, but if you're sponsoring, if you're attending, if you're speaking, and looking at events really as a whole ecosystem rather than just from the seat of the organizer. And that's where Deb and I have really aligned in our conversations and what she does with her pre-event strategies and how she helps also not only attendees and people in her network. So we come in and we help both the teams and then look at the whole ecosystem, whether it's strategy, planning, production, and then your analytics, and really how to make events be beneficial for business.
And of course, we have to have events in a conversation about endurance, because you can't, if you don't have endurance, you're just going,
And especially the last couple of years, I say event people are definitely some of the most resilient people. And, you know, when we think about what is endurance, and it's pushing through even when things are tough, right? And so pushing through, and that's building, whether it's your strength mentally and physically in your business, your career, whatever context we're taking, endurance is pushing through even when things get hard. And definitely, you know, whether it's planning the event or as a career path, I'm definitely glad to have this conversation because endurance has been definitely a go-to topic throughout the past couple of years.
And you just magically answered my first question before I even asked it, which is, what is endurance? So gold star and brownie points for your ESP.
It's a gold star. Love it.
Oh, that's right. We're new friends. Gold stars are it because I believe everybody, first of all, everybody gets a trophy. If you're here listening or watching, you've chosen yourself and you get that gold star for that. And then, of course, well, I've got a whole gold star methodology, but for actually doing the work and being a shining star. Anyway, Seth, what about you? What is endurance?
It's almost the same thing. I mean, when I was a journalist, it was putting up with all the stuff that goes on as being a journalist, you know, like running after combines through cornfields. That actually did happen. What else happened? Sitting on a highway for 6 hours as they extract a dump truck from a ravine, like really random stuff. And then I mean, I was a newspaper journalist, so not entertainment and that kind of stuff. I mean, I saw some interesting things. I once stood way too close to what we thought was a suitcase bomb in Gettysburg. It turned out to be a bunch of stiletto heels. Yeah, but then I realized, wait, if that was actually a bomb, I'd be dead if that thing went off. So I was right behind a hook and ladder truck, but way too close to the radius. Anyhow, but then endurance with like podcasting and doing the newsletter. I mean, you have to, it's a commitment. It's realizing that like you have to have some consistency going on there. You know, with SEO, you have to have endurance to put up with Google changing their mind every 5 minutes. You know, you have to have endurance saying you have to push through to do the website and whatnot. So that's it really is the push through. It's the all right, I'm gonna stick to itness almost.
Well, I think it's more than almost.
Yeah,
right?
It is.
Awesome. And so Brian, what about you? What is your definition of what is endurance?
I'm going to, since I'm a journalist, I'm just going to put this one in quotes, quoting somebody else who said it a whole lot better. I think it was Muhammad Ali said that he doesn't start, when he does push-ups, he doesn't start counting until they start hurting.
Oh.
Because that's where you're going to really make the difference. And, you know, it's, you know, there's the mind is always going to look for the easy way out of things, whether it's somebody says, take a break and you take it as if it's gospel. It's like, no, you shouldn't take a break. You need to keep going. But it's also, you know, setting the right boundaries. You know, there is a time as a journalist, there is a lot that is reactive. You may have noticed that I was checking something while Michelle was talking about herself. Sorry, but I got up. There was an update that came out, and I wanted to see if there was something going on. But that brings up a really good point, which is you do set aside a time to be reactive, and you set up a time to be proactive. Mm-hmm. The proactive time hopefully will be longer than the reactive time, but that, you know, that means, you know, tuning things out, training people to contact you a certain way. You know, if people know that if they call you twice in the span of 2 minutes, the call will go through. Yeah. But you don't call up to tell them about the sandwich you just ate. You know, I mean,
this is a really good sandwich.
You know, we could still text me a picture of it.
There you go.
I'll look at it later. But
yeah,
you know, but it really is. It's training people to know that, whether it's knowing. I mean, it's not about blaming others or putting this on others, but it really is setting aside the right amount of time and committing to it, and knowing that your body, your mind is always going to veer towards, you know, rest or consumption, dopamine hits, and you want to make sure that you know that you keep the dopamine carrot in front of your face, whether it's whatever it might be that motivates you or something. You know, put that all around, like put that all around your workspace or your non-workspace. You know, it's really important to remember that. You know, there was a time where I had moved into a new place and I hadn't put anything on the walls, hadn't hung anything up, and I felt really low. And it was because, when you're in a workspace, especially working from home, it's hard to remember. Sometimes mind may wander off to strange places. You may forget why it is that you're here, why it is that you are who you are. These are some of the awful places my mind goes to. But when you have reminders all around, I know you can't see right now because they're blurred. I'm traveling tomorrow, so the place is a little messy. But, it's important to remember what your goal is and set aside the time to commit to that. And then also, as a journalist, you got to set aside time where it's okay to be reactive. And I prefer, like, one example is I strongly prefer to do my the interviews and stuff that I do, like if they're scheduled on Mondays and Tuesdays. That way Wednesday, Thursday, Friday can be just really solid blocks for me writing, or people that have just like, look, none of those times are going to work. It's one of the things that I try to do. Just committing to it.
Happens, yeah. Those times aren't going to work. I'm like, that's what I said. That's the time to have it happen. Why doesn't it work on my calendar?
Yeah, I get that because I usually leave my Mondays are my kitchen sink days. And someone has to really, really need to only talk to me on a Monday to get a Monday appointment with me, because I know now it's all these people. I talked to Deb on a Monday one. She was really like me.
She's really special. I actually have 2 calendar links, and this a little insight, Seth, you're on the one calendar link where I have network and general people in my network re-engaging. It's block time, and so I actually send out that calendar link versus client calls and what Brian was saying, those blocks of time, because I need to transition into a different framework of thinking or working on client calls and planning versus networking calls and podcast calls. Is at least how my brain works. They feel like 2 different parts of my brain. So I actually have set those expectations, not only for myself, but then, oh, great, what type of call is this? And to your point, Debra, you cannot get me on a phone call unless you're certain people in my network and or my clientele before 10 a.m.
Oh, that's smart. I start 9:30, but even that's pushing it, but 9:30, nothing before 9:30, because like the kids got to get out of the house.
Exactly.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. But I have you better. I have one better. I have like 5 or 6 calendar links for different things.
Well, there you go.
No, I have like the podcast, like schedule a preliminary call for the people who I kind of reach out to, thinking that they're interesting, but not sure if they're interesting. They still end up being on the podcast regardless. But I want to size up like how I'm going to take the call when we do the actual podcast later on. And then I have the direct podcast link. I have a schedule on a Zoom call link. I have one for in real life meetings. Thank God for
in real life. We are in life,
But in real life, but right now. In IRL, like in person,
on site.
I should say that Calendly, I've been using it for a little bit of time now, has been super helpful.
It's very helpful.
Even with just a free account, it's been really helpful especially if you have calls or Zooms with people from other parts of the planet, other parts of the country. That way you don't have to, mess around with time zones. But I think I was going to ask, sounds like to an extent we all work. We're not working directly with coworkers that are right on top of us all the time. No. And what do we do are there things that you guys automate during the day, whether it's you have planned the night before what it is you're going to eat in the middle of the day, or little things like that? Because I mean, the way that I see it is like, I should always know what it is that I'm going to have in the middle of the day, because otherwise, trying to decide will just throw me off, because there's only so much decision-making power you have inside of you at the beginning of the day.
Love it.
I had a guest on.
Oh,
can I see those again?
Yeah. I was going to say, but I want to hear what Debra has to say. And I know this is a podcast, but this is my visual, and I can explain it very quickly. But yes, this is how my brain works: project management, people management, and event management. And this is my system.
Popsicle sticks. Love it.
Those would be highlighters for those listening.
So
the popsicle sticks.
I can visualize it right here. So I have different colors, and how I block schedule projects is red being priorities, orange being action items, which take more than 10 minutes or multiple action steps to complete whatever it is, right? Then we have quick steps, and quick tasks take anything less than 10 minutes. So this is sorting my email, not responding to emails, but sorting through it and prioritizing anything that takes less than 10 minutes. Then I go to green, which is wealth driven. I don't say revenue driven because wealth is more than just revenue coming in, but this could be bookkeeping, it could be pipeline, it could be things that are generating and or managing wealth. And then blue is for scheduled events. They actually are the first thing on the calendar because they're scheduled and they're either events, they're appointments, they're podcasts. And then the last thing being purple is ideas and information. So I like to learn and continue to stay on top of trends. Yeah. And so you would think you would want to start with priorities, and maybe, if there was, this is just how my brain works, is I start with quick tasks to get going. My brain wants to turn on and I can knock through those. And so then I actually bucket and, semi-automate, but can at least say, okay, I'm going to block schedule. And I know 10 until 2, I work really, really well on these type of tasks and these sort of projects, rather than just having an ungodly list of to-dos, right?
Like
so
this?
I actually exactly.
So then
and then I color code that, and that really helps me to say, oh my gosh, I have only 30 minutes. How many quick tasks can I do versus I have 3 hours? I should hit on some of those client projects, or today's a bookkeeping day. And that has helped just shift. And that's the project management in me versus the typical, how do you tackle a task list is that's how I get through my day, my week, and just how it keeps me semi-automated.
I love it.
Well, you just answered the next question before I asked it. What is this going on?
What is your next question?
Well, my next question was, how do you stay focused and motivated? And I think color coding, but even more importantly, the message is the system, the system that works for you. And I've had, for years, people say, Deb, do you like paper or electronic lists? And I say yes, paper. Because some people work better on paper. Some people work better electronically. I start with paper and then it goes into the calendar.
I do exactly the opposite. I go, everything's on my digital calendar, but every day I write into my little bullet journal here. This is not a bullet journal. I don't follow all the rules that writer or whatever his name he came up with. That was insanely ADHD out the wazoo. And I can say that because I'm ADHD. But I do something similar where I write my to-do list for the day on paper because I like to actually X things off. Yeah. And that's my dopamine hit.
I need these tangible things actually help me to move. I mean, these are just yes, but having the whiteboard, having the color codes, because in my project management system, I use the same system to sort my emails, sort my projects, but then I can physically look at this and say, okay, I'm in red zone right now, or to your point, I'm unofficially undiagnosed ADHD. And so
I'm diagnosed.
Being an event planner or working events, people always say, oh, you must be so organized. And it's because of the systems and the process that it doesn't necessarily just come natural. But after doing this for 15 years, I have found systems that have worked for me in little nuggets. And it's not perfect, of course not. But without my systems, without my checklists, I will absolutely forget whatever it is unless it's written down. And so having the tangible colors, having the tangible process helps to, at least when I feel that I'm going off track, that I can pull myself back, and kind of stay on path.
And I had a question for you guys as well.
Wait,
similar.
You're journalist.
He's taking notes. He's being a journalist.
I would have asked this either way. Current career or my previous life with the .gov in DC, which I will say, when I lived in DC, you got paid whether you accomplished or not. I worked hard, but when the election is the way that keeps you accountable, that's not enough. There are people that works for, and members of Congress, things like that. But for me, there was always something more. And on top of the topics, I just didn't like writing about politics anymore. So I'm here in entertainment, but sometimes I come off the bench and I write about politics, like this past week. Anyways, two questions for you guys. You guys have talked about email apps, email sorting, and talked about notes, digital. What email app are you using on your phone for work-specific stuff?
Gmail.
What are you using on your computer for work-specific?
I'm Gmail.
So are you using the native Gmail app is what you use?
Yeah, I won't. I don't trust my computer to hold on to anything. It's all in the cloud. I'm all in the cloud. Google Drive. I have Google Drive, Nextcloud, which is self-spun. I have Dropbox. I have OneDrive. I have.
But when someone emails you,
email me. I'm all in the app on the phone and on the app. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have Outlook, and I do that because I ask myself, my clientele are primarily corporate, and they're also either on Google and or Outlook, and I just have used Outlook, comfortable with it, and that's on the phone and my desktop.
Okay, so you use Outlook, and Deb, what do you use?
I use
she's not ready to be questioned.
So it's sort of like I think I'm gonna say both is the answer to any question, but no, I use Gmail, and I also love G Suite because that way, and this was of course more relevant when I left the house, but that way all of my documents were in the cloud, so whichever laptop I was on or on my phone, it was accessible. So I've got the Gmail. But I do also use Outlook because people look at you funny if you don't have an email address that's got your URL. So I am info@thedebmethod.com. Usually if someone emails me there, I know that I don't know them, which is fun. Or I'll have met somebody and they want to do intros. I say, let's do it through the info@thedebmethod. Not like, we talked about appearances. We talked about authenticity last week. And people, I think, well, you probably agree with this, Michelle. In corporate, they expect your URL to match the website. It's just a thing.
Yeah, don't use gmail.com. Don't. Oh, that's bad.
Right. And, exactly.
And if you haven't done it yet, buy your first name, last name.com or some variation of it.
Or anything, .site, .website, honestly, .xyz.
Just get it.
Yeah.
Do you have a preferred? And do you guys have a preferred platform for building a site or building like a
WordPress?
WordPress.
I don't have WordPress. Sorry.
I know. I'm working on that with you. We'll talk about
that. Just for my format, how my business model is, I have a program called Groove, and actually as a membership, I can do all my landing pages, all my websites, my membership, my portal, a login, and I can do it myself and my internal team. WordPress I've used or with clients, but I don't use it personally.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Sorry,
when it comes to endurance, it's which ones have the best user interface, and it's constantly evolving.
Well, and the other thing too, and then I'll let you talk, Seth, because I know you want to, is
I always want to
for endurance, you need to be organized, you need to be consistent, you need to have boundaries. And it might not sound like we're talking about endurance, but we're totally talking about endurance.
Yes, absolutely.
So what were you going to say, Seth?
No, when it boils down to it, it's not so much the CMS, the content management system you're building stuff on. It's how you can get the most out of your endurance. So for Michelle, she needs to have all the systems in place in one spot. Yeah. Whereas I have a tool for this, a tool for that, a tool for that, a tool for that. Like literally I have a little dance for that, pretty much everywhere I go. There's a tool for something, as you heard about all my backup tools I have. Like literally, if I need something, I've got it in like 5 different places, for better or for worse. So when you think about endurance boils down to how you can do endurance right. Because if you do endurance the wrong way, you're just wasting time.
Ooh, I love that. And doing endurance right is
being prepared, and I feel like a Boy Scout. Be prepared, but being prepared. Yeah, exactly. Knowing what you need to be successful, and then enduring.
Ooh, that's even better.
And then also enduring it when things break. That's endurance. Is when literally on the podcast I had 2 episodes, one after the other. I could not for the life of me find the album art, so I had to endure the stress of trying to find the album art, or to go find it, where I uploaded it to the cloud to go find it. But that was endurance. I had to endure the freak out almost. Like, where is this?
I asked this on the chat last night. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you on the endurance scale?
Depends on the day.
Brian?
All right, so 1 being
you've got the one.
Coma.
1 is like the easiest life ever. One is like the easiest life. The world is your oyster. And if something doesn't work out, you say, I'll do something else. Number 10 is I'm here despite everything. So I guess on a scale of I'm easy to I'm a survivor, where are you?
Good song, though.
It really depends on how imminent what it is, what it is that I'm doing. If it's something that I want to make it happen, it's not just something I'm doing for a paycheck or helping make somebody else wealthy. If it's something that I am doing as either a labor of love or something that I enjoy doing, I mean, I will go all out and sacrifice. I'll sacrifice sleep and friendships and health, which isn't exactly good.
That's not a good message.
No, terrible message, but it's happened. But day to day, that's not every day. And if it is every day, that's that's hard. But I think a really important ththing that goes down with that is, and a friend of mine, a doctor friend of mine, really strict about this. He says, and he's not a sleep doctor, but he says sleep hygiene is so important. It is so important, training your body to wake up and go to sleep at the exact same time every day. And that's the same whether you work 2 jobs and have kids or not. Train your body for that. And there was another doctor I heard once who said, he was talking. Someone asked, "Hey, I'm an all-night nurse. What should I do to ensure that I get proper sleep hygiene?" He says, "You're not going to like this answer. You got to get a new job. You got to work somewhere else because but sleep hygiene is really important. That way you're training your body for various levels of predictability and I mean that way, gives you, I think it's what you do outside of the hustle is also really important, whether it's, creating, learning, moving, you could do all 3 of those, 3 hours, each of those every day. That's a pretty good life. If you're creating something, whether it's, if you're a writer and you spend time, writing music or I don't know, just doing something creative, whether you're cooking something, whatever it might be, learning, whatever you want, whatever it could be. It could be documentary, something just interesting that's you're learning, and then moving. Those 3 hours are so important. If you can stack them so that you're learning as you're moving, that's really helpful too. And I think that kind of, that really helps build the foundation for having endurance. Because if you're sleeping terribly, if you are not moving, if you are, not learning anything new and you're not creating anything that you like, if you're just working on spreadsheets and you hate spreadsheets, life sucks. I've done that, and it's and remembering that, and if you're not doing that kind of work anymore, if that isn't the main part of your livelihood, congratulations, that's great. But yeah, I think creating, learning, moving, those are the 3 things that really help with the endurance outside of the endurance. What are you saying? You're saying time's up? What's it saying?
No, I'm agreeing. This is
Hurry up.
That's the ideas and information.
Please stop checking it.
She's shaking it. She's moving in and out.
Ideas and information.
Yeah. To allocate that time. So I'm agreeing, to have that a time, allocated for the creative
You have
part
to.
of that and the ideas and information. That was not me. That was me visualizing. Yes, I was not cutting you off. Or,
No,
you know,
I don't care. Cut me off all you want.
at all.
There's only
I was
only
saying
an hour
yes.
show.
Block that out. That's
Yeah.
purple in
I
my
love
brain.
it. Well, that's what I point out for people with SEO. I mean, it's not whiz bang fancy voodoo science. It's you're paying for the amount of knowledge that I had to go and research every single day. It's me reading articles. It's me figuring stuff out. It's me realizing that Google changed something last week that now affects everything else, and then going to spend the time fixing everything to then realign with Google, or realign with Bing or the search engines, all that kind of stuff. It's constantly researching and staying on top of things. I mean, as a journalist, as a marketer, as an event planner, as a podcast host, it's all that same thing.
As a side note to that, we were talking about WordPress and those other platforms and things constantly changing, is sometimes it'll take me forever to find a particular function. Like you want to have like a pop-up or something on the website. And you just can't figure out how what it'll look like for the life of you. And when I figure it out,
I feel so good.
I actually I'll take a whole bunch of screenshots of how I got there and then put it in
if you can figure that out. The worst kind is when you figure it out and you have no idea how the heck you got there.
Yeah, and
it's like the
all the
conversation.
time.
Yeah, it's the conversation, and now we're talking about one thing. It's like, how did this conversation, and then it's when you figure something out, it's like, whoo, like where, how?
With conversations, the best ones are when they come around full circle. Magically, they just come back, and it's like back to endurance.
Ooh. So, Michelle, on a scale of 1, which is life is so easy, to 10, oh my goodness, you're constantly running the marathon. What is your number on that, on the Deb endurance scale?
Oh boy, I definitely ebb and flow, where it depends on the day. Another system that I've used in my own life, I call it the red, yellow, green day. And now this might fluctuate throughout the day, but my green days are my hyper focus. Literally, I cleaned the entire grout of my kitchen over the weekend because it was nice out and we have family coming for Thanksgiving. There is no way that I would have been able to endure that sort of chore if it was not on a green hyper focus day. And I listened to a virtual event while doing so, whereas my red day are survival. That's the one, just get through, brush my teeth, get out of bed if I survive, right? Because life is so hard, or and so then I actually strive more for those yellow days where maybe I'm actually not the most productive or getting through, right? But if I can maintain that steady yellow-ish, get through that, and rather than having so many highs and lows, because I tend to either have a high and then I'll crash, right? Or when I work these events, I can go 12, 14-hour days, 5 days in a row traveling, and then I come back and crash. And I can do that sometimes, right? But then the day-to-day stuff, I actually strive in where I feel that grounded, or if I'm not quite where do I need that pick me up? And going back, I think it really is more of that building block of endurance goes beyond motivation, right? A lot of people talk about self-motivating. It's more than the discipline, because the endurance is the ability to do it, where motivation isn't necessarily what's going to keep you going. It's the self-discipline and the ability. And when I continue to strive for more of those yellow, instead of the ebb and flow, having the endurance, I now have the ability, because my base is stronger than where I was, right? Or I have the new ability because of new skill sets that we just learned, or whatever it is. So before I actually, quick story, back in May, I picked up rollerblading. I don't know why rollerblading, but rollerblade, exactly. And so
I saw the TikTok.
Yeah, you saw my TikTok. There you go. What's that?
What city are you in?
I'm outside of DC. I'm in Southern Maryland.
Okay.
Yeah, so
it's a little flat, so that's good.
It is flat. So I bring this up because I had no endurance. Seth has known me for a long time. We've moved down here. I'm not going through the last 5 years, but point being, I picked up rollerblading within my endurance. I wanted to get my endurance physically, mentally back on track. And so rollerblading was great because it is flat around here. And it was something, I'm not a runner, that I could do even just to get in the swing of it, right? And it took that long where I just joined the gym this month. And it sometimes I feel as though, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much stronger I actually was unless I start tracking that. And I feel better, but you don't think day to day. But in the long scheme of things, I look at the tracking.
It adds up.
And I thought I was doing okay, but what I can skate now versus what I did back in May. And there's just I couldn't mentally get to the gym for the past decade. Just right. So that's where I know that's kind of the roundabout way is, I have those ebb and flows, but setting that foundation. And then my endurance, what that endurance is pushing through. So my baseline is higher than where it was before. And then it's more gradually taking the tiny steps to keep going, even when my self-motivation isn't there, even when the self-discipline, but my ability is now able to get me through, even if I feel at a low or, going through the day-to-day, looking at the whole thing, not just at a day-to-day, but where am I? I'm actually further or stronger or mentally better. I'm having less red days than I did 6 months ago or a year ago.
Obviously I'm going to say that I love everything you're saying because I do, but you all know me. I'm all about the foundation. You can't get what you want unless you know what that is. So putting those things in place, but also the thing I say all the time, which is tracking every single win, which is why I love writing everything down, because you might think you're not going anywhere, but if whether it's for rollerblading or building a business or writing a book or whatever, but keeping tabs on those wins, that is a wonderful way to build endurance. I couldn't help myself. I had to chime in. So far, I've got no number from Brian or Michelle, which is fine.
Oh, actual number. Oof.
No, it's fine. It's totally.
I go from a 1 to a 10. Depends.
That's the same. I'm thinking about number 10. I go from a 1 to a 10 within the same day. Like if a client, like today, a client came up and said that Google said that the client, another client that I worked through them, their client's website wasn't being indexed by Google. I was like, oh no, there's the 10. Then I went in and I looked around. I'm like, no, that's a false positive because there's nothing blocking Google. Google threw a false positive. I went down to a 5. Yeah, I feel like it's more like a stress factor than an endurance factor, but every day is different. Like there's days like when I have to get my kid at school at 4. I had to go down I literally had to go down like the street to the bus stop. I'm back up at the 10 because I have 5 other things to do right here. So it's up, down, up, down, up, down. I don't think it's necessarily it's not even daily for me. It's all over the place.
It's the juggle, right?
It's definitely a juggle.
Okay, so how do you keep that? We've got the red, green, yellow from Michelle.
I don't hold my popsicle sticks, but
That's okay.
And the hour a day of things from Brian. Do you have a consistent?
Me? No.
No.
Journalist.
Do I have one that's consistent? Something that's? Do I have a consistent number? Hardly. I mean, there are times where like I'll have to like warn people like you're not going to get a hold of me for like 2 days, just letting you know, and I'll be at a 10 for 3 solid days of 15, 16 hours, something like that. There are times where that happens. If you can make that happen, if you have the flexibility, when you don't have kids, don't have plants to water, anything like that, you can just go all in. But that's at the end of it all, like you really do have to bring it back to the 1, 2, 3 range.
Otherwise, you're gonna have a heart attack.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going at 100 meter dash speed, you can't keep that. You can't keep 100 meter dash speed up for 2 miles. You just can't. I mean, most people can't. And so
I don't
that's
think
why
the
you
same
want
Bolt can either. He's fast.
No, yeah, he's a sprinter. Yeah, so 3,200 meters, that would still put him. That would be what I don't know.
Math
I
real
don't know
time not
math.
happening here.
32 times 10 seconds. That's 320 seconds. So how long is that? Doesn't matter. The important thing is
there is no math.
Yeah.
No math.
But
No
yeah,
math,
so I
no
mean, if
dead
you can
math.
keep it,
This
if
is
you
a
can work at a,
math-free zone.
if you can work at a 7 or an 8, just like consistently with predictable, foot off the gas. If you can do that, life can be pretty good. And also, I apologize if my audio isn't coming in.
Yeah,
Okay,
I did that for 6 years as a journalist, and I went through 6 years of PTSD and burnout because I did like a 7 to 8 every day for 6 years. Actually, that was 7 months. I did that. Then I had to leave that job because I couldn't do it anymore. I walked into my editor's office. And dude, I call him dude. No, I said, Mark, I'm like, dude, I'm out. Peace. I said, I'm giving you my 2 weeks. He's like, leave now. I'll pay you for 2 more weeks. You're burning. And I kept, and then 5 more years of doing journalism. I went back and did some more, but like I was pulling 14-hour days every day of the week because I loved it that much. And I burned out.
So what do you do now to keep your sanity?
I step away from the computer when I can and walk the dog. Literally, the dog has been the best. I mean, Michelle, and she can say Aries is probably one of the best things that ever happened to her. I mean, don't tell your husband that, but But like literally, the dog. We have.
I love that you remember my dog's name. I love that.
It's
that's awesome.
You talked about it in your story on Instagram. So
that's true. And TikTok.
But it's the journalist brain. I don't forget anything. Literally, I'll forget someone's name before I forget a detail. It happens. But like walking my 11-month-old Labradoodle, because I have to, because there's someone or something other than me that needs to go eat and go out for a walk at 12 noon, which is not the most ideal time ever. And my wife's too busy working on her stuff to remember to feed the dog. I'm the one that remembers, so I feed the dog and I take it for a walk. So, and it helps you get a little bit better breather.
So stress management, dog.
Get a dog. Cats don't count. Cats don't count. Get a dog.
Yes, because cats
just look at you and say F you. They just look at you like,
Yeah, cats don't need you to walk them and pet them and love them and feed them.
No, this dog does. This dog, she'll whine at the door until you open up and say hi for like 5 seconds.
So that's been really good for you.
Oh my God, it's one of the greatest things.
Okay.
And also having a child, which is a lot more of a commitment than a dog. But I have a kid who's like, let's play Minecraft, Daddy. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't have time. But, taking the break to go play Minecraft. It takes endurance. Here's the thing. It takes endurance to not do something you need to do and spend time doing something else. It's a whole different kind of endurance because you have to endure not doing what you really need to do right now.
I think another thing too, for endurance, another thing, like when we're talking about motivation or just like immediacy, whatever it might be. Let's say you have a deadline and the deadline isn't enough to keep you motivated. I've done this. You give a friend a certain amount of money, and you say, "Take this. If I don't turn, here's $700. If I don't turn in 10 pages each day, or I don't turn in progress, like set parameters, progress each day." On each of those days, if I don't turn it in by midnight your time, you keep that 100. I don't get it back.
Wow.
Brian, why don't we have this relationship?
Right?
First, you'll need $700 to do that. No, I mean, I learned it from an author I used to work with, and yeah, it's like I think his system was like you give somebody like $1,000 or something, or whatever set amount it is.
I was talking nickels.
Each week you say, if I don't turn this into you by Thursday 7 p.m., that $100 or that $1,000, whatever it is, it's yours. And you don't get it.
I don't know what kind of money that guy was rolling in. That was not me. I'm talking about nickels, and I'm not talking about like $500. I'm talking about nickels.
Well, it's got to be an amount that like you're going to be upset if you don't get it back.
I'll miss that nickel.
Yeah, like Yeah, like they say, like if like losing $100 would upset you, just don't gamble. Like, so start from there, whatever it might be.
I had a woman back when this was a lot when I hosted my live writer support group. I always talk about what are your rewards, and one woman said, "I don't do rewards. I do punishments." Ooh. So if I don't make my goals, I don't think she's watching. I think it's okay to share this one. She didn't like hanging out with the other mommies, but if she didn't make her goals, she would set a play date for her kid and the kid of one of the mommies she didn't like, but the kid liked the kid. Something like that.
Hopefully she's not watching.
People are definitely motivated differently, and learning your own motivation, going back to self-motivation, is different than self-discipline. And some people need that self-discipline through punishment, or versus, losing $1,000 versus the reward that Seth is talking about is, that external factor is a reward, but it's accountability.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, talking about rewards and accountability and all the things that motivate you to be better, do better, have the life you want, I think it's time for you all to gift goals to our audience. So what is one thing someone could do today, tonight, tomorrow to step up their endurance? Seth, do you have a goal to gift?
Yes, write down your tomorrow today. Write down your tomorrow task list. That's what I should say. Today, so you know what the heck's going on the next day. Put it in your Google Calendar. What I do is every night I transcribe what's in my Google Calendar, because that's automatic. Like Dad put something on my calendar. But like if I didn't look if it wasn't down on this piece of paper, I would have probably forgotten about Deb tonight, because I look more at the piece of paper here in my chicken scratch. My journal's on chicken scratch here, and people can't see it, but
beautiful.
It's bad. It's almost worse than doctor handwriting. But writing it down, getting it down every night, I sit down and do it. Sunday nights are the worst because I hadn't been working. Well, I shouldn't have been working during that day. I make sure I tell my wife, I'm like, I have to go downstairs and write my list for tomorrow. I had to prep for the next Monday. Otherwise, Monday is off the rail. That's my goal. Write it down beforehand, the day before.
Yes, and I love it. I always think to do like the week and then the day before. So you've got big picture and then little pictures.
I tried that. I have so many different kind of planners back here, like the focus planner, the panda planner.
All you need is this, what you already have, which is a notebook and a pen.
Yeah.
And I was
Look at Brian.
Brian
he is the best guy I did when I was a
10.
journalist. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, it's still going. It's still going.
Thank you, Brian. Because I lead goal setting workshops all the time. I always get this question, and the answer is what works for you. And if you don't know, start with pen and paper, because if you don't write it down, it doesn't happen. So
it's tactile.
Yes.
Writing it down, at least for me, I'm swinging my hand and or it's tactile, or Michelle and her popsicle sticks again.
It works.
It works.
Yeah, and get a printer. It could be a POS. You can buy one for like $30. Just look for someone to buy a printer that works. If you could just print stuff in black and white and post it in front of you, just so because there's so many I'm terrible at video games, and the computer is kind of like a functional video game, so I have like my to-do lists and all these things stacked here. Print it out, get it on paper. Look, we're gonna be fine with trees. We have a very sustainable system when it comes to that.
Get a printer.
It's so silly because go ahead.
I was just gonna ask Brian, is that your goal? Is get a printer?
No, I have a printer here, but I'll tell you what I did.
I mean, what is your goal for the audience?
The goal for the audience. That's just good advice. Get a printer and write down these goals that all three of us are giving you. Print them up, pick one, commit to it this week. Mine, it's 4 parts. You can do it all in 40 minutes. Or you could just divide it in 2. We'll do it for 5 minutes each. 4 things, 5 minutes each, 20 minutes. Create something for 5 minutes. Set a timer each day, but each day create something for 5 minutes. Whether it's you go to the piano, you download a piano app on your iPad and try to play the Beverly Hills Cop theme or something. Learn
I love
something,
that song.
whatever it might be. If it wasn't blurred out, you'd see that there's a guitar, a bass, and a drum set back here. I use them almost every day. 5 minutes learning something, and I don't mean like just learning something, but like really like, pick a topic you don't know anything about and learn something, whether it's a YouTube video, reading a book. I'd recommend picking up a book. If they're real books. Seth, I'm talking to you. Are those real? Or are they just safe?
This is actually a background. This is not a background. This is actually like real books.
Wow, real books. That's awesome.
Real
Real
books.
books.
And it goes up pretty high too. It's
So-
insane.
So creating something, whether it's drawing, writing a poem, whatever it is, create something for 5 minutes, learn something for 5 minutes. I'd say pick up a different book and just start reading it. 5 minutes, set a timer, and then move, whether it's rollerblading, jumping jacks, running around the house with the dog, push-ups, whatever it is. You can do a Muhammad Ali style and start counting them once they start hurting. And then the fourth thing is 5 minutes of meditation, silence, just reflecting. So creating, learning / reading, moving, meditation. There you go. 20 minutes. Set a timer. If you don't have a timer, go to Walgreens, buy a timer.
You have a phone.
Oh, get off the phone. Get one of these.
No, I mean you can use the
I have
timer on
prompts.
your phone.
Yeah. I mean, some people. Yeah.
Everybody
If
has
you're
a
watching this, you
timer.
have a device. Yeah. I mean, no one's watching this on public access television like Wayne's World or something. Like, you have a device, use it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a device. I completely agree with you on the timer. And if you are so inclined, yes, get an actual timer.
I love
If
this
you
thing.
if you don't, use the phone, but then put the phone down, turn off your notifications, and set the phone timer.
It's not beeping. Sorry.
And here's another. This isn't a challenge. It's more of a task. If there is a group text that you are on that never has anything that is immediately actionable, as in like you are trying to figure out like an event or something. If it's family, friends, unless it's something about like keeping somebody alive or something like that, all your group chats need to be no notifications.
Oh my
Zero.
God, yeah.
None.
I get that. I'm like off.
None.
Off.
And if somebody says stop messaging me so much in the middle of the night, that's their own problem because they turn those off. Turn them off completely.
Yeah.
I don't want to see
Unless
it.
emergency. Same with social media. That's actually something that I've done is all social media. I've turned off the notifications on my phone, and that goes text message, Snapchats, TikToks, LinkedIn. And so I intentionally have to go into these apps, and people, at first they may say, oh my gosh, you're taking hours. I know that you're on your phone. I know that you're, on your computer.
Well, then that's just creepy. And you have to ask them what tracker did they put on your phone. But
Yeah, no, I'm not talking, I'm talking even friends, my sister or like my mom, right? But to set those notifications, and then, I intentionally have to go into those apps, whether it's LinkedIn or I only use Snapchat for my siblings. That's it. And maybe like one or two friends. And so, sometimes I don't go in there because it's not a notification. They know that if they need me, text me. Because
remember this? Well, you're too young, Michelle, but remember this? It's called a phone for a reason.
I'm not that young.
You pick the phone up and you talk into it. Dial the
Point
number.
being, yes, I agree with the do not disturb and the notifications.
My do not disturb on my phone goes on at 7 p.m. and doesn't turn off until 6 a.m. in the morning. The only person who can get through it automatically is mom. Not even dad, just mom. Because she's the one that matters. And so mom gets through, and then dad knows to call twice. And he gets through.
So set boundaries, whatever those may be. Yesterday I said I had a lot of emails to do, but I don't like to send emails on Sundays because it tells people that it's okay if they email me with worky things on Sundays.
It's called a schedule send, Deb.
I know, I did that.
Good.
You write them, but they don't go out until Monday.
You feel accomplished. You get the dopamine hit. They don't get the dopamine hit until the next day because they don't matter that much until work day.
Relatively speaking, yes.
Yeah.
It's teaching people how to treat you. Unless it's urgent, I don't respond to work emails after 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
I try. I'm bad. I'm bad at that. Like, if people will email me on the weekend, if I'm seeing my computer, I'll deal with it.
Right.
I'm bad that way, but
I'm sorry, Michelle, I interrupted you because you were going to say something awesome and then you were going to gift a goal. Go.
My goal or gift to your audience would be really find how to give yourself grace. And that has been something that I've worked on. We talked a little bit about burnout and where that endurance, and that was something that I've struggled and sometimes still struggle. And it's okay. And learn what grace means to you, to yourself, and that setting those boundaries and figuring out, because the hyperactive, those green days that I talked about, it's not necessarily sustainable. And so I had to learn how to give myself, where is that grace, and then find systems that work for you, because we are in society that success and fulfillment may look different to you and how you get there. And so someone like Seth, who has his bullet journals and my, crazy color coded things,
love it.
It's not that it's natural, but it took me really trial and error to figure out what works. And actually, Seth and I saw Amy Landino at an event that we actually were there together. She's amazing for a type A person that has the same routine every day with a planner. And it felt like I would constantly fail and fail and fail. And yes, fail is part of growth and yada, yada. But those systems aren't necessarily how my brain is wired. And so when we constantly are in this state of, well, that doesn't work for me, that doesn't work for me, then where is that grace? And then that trial and error, because there is something that does work for you. My mother-in-law eats the same breakfast, same lunch every single day for months and months and months and months. Blueberry smoothie every single day. I could not do that. I need the variety, but she knows, and that's how she is. So those systems and that routine that gets me in a funk. And so finding that has been able to then raise my foundation of my endurance, right? And to keep going, because I'm not constantly feeling like failing is great so that you can grow. I understand.
But you would know you fail with grace. Fail with grace.
I like that. Actually, yes. How to fall with grace. And
not
so
fall, fail. And fall. Well, you're rollerblading, so you had to learn how to fall with grace.
Exactly. You got to fall gracefully. That way, and to define that has really, I'm constantly working on that. And then your movement of where that endurance and where that strength is, because of where your grace and what systems work for you. It's okay that it's not what, these gurus or what these other foreseen what looks like success to them is not necessarily how you're going to fulfill your own success and your own endurance, whatever that looks like. And that's going to be a journey on your own to figure that out.
Wow. These are such great goals. Well, it's the logic. What works for you, but give yourself that permission to figure that out. And that's a great starting point. I was going to say starting stone and stepping stone and starting point at the same time, but you all get me. We're good.
All of that. Yeah. All of that. I always say, don't compare your milestones don't compare your stepping stones to other people's milestones.
Ooh, I like
right.
That. Ooh.
That's good, right? Someone write that down.
You like that?
Yeah.
Oh, Deb, we may have quoted that last time I could be wrong, but don't compare your stepping stones to other people's milestones.
Yes. Well,
or kilometer stones if you're in Europe.
Well, if you go to thedebmethod.com/blog, you can get the link to this or the recap and the links in this conversation. And I'm hyping, if you're watching this on Facebook, you'll see that I'm hyping all these wonderful gems in the chat.
Keeping up.
What?
You're keeping up with us too. I'm impressed. I mean, I can't imagine recapping this. We're all over the place tonight.
I would start with just an automatic transcribing application.
Otter.ai.
Like that?
I do things the Deb way, and the
Yes.
Deb way is the way that doesn't make me obsess over the recaps. And it's actually a really good point with the conversation. I do the Twitter chat, I do the live show, I do the podcast.
Yeah.
I could easily spend hours upon hours upon hours, and I spend probably more time than I need to because perfectionist. But what works for me is picking out the gems as we talk and putting that into the recap, which you can read at thedebmethod.com/blog. Bam.
It was a callback. Callback, everybody. That was a callback.
And we're not comedians. We are just writers. Not just writers.
No, we're not Annie.
Anyway, what?
We're not Annie.
We are not Annie, but what we are people who care about other people doing well, which is why we're having this conversation. I can't thank you all enough for being here. Will you please tell people where they can find you and learn more about you? Brian, where can people find you?
Go to brianfishbach.com and then just go to contact and follow everything that's there. BrianFish, B as in Bravo, ACH as in hotel. .com.
Awesome.
/contact. Just click on that and go to Find Rock Music Life and the stuff that for the Jewish Journal, video packages, and an email list.
Ooh. How thorough. Okay, Seth, where can people find you?
Oh boy. You can pretty much find me as Seth Goldstein on Google, but goldsteinme.com is the main site. Entrepreneursenigma.com is the podcast. You find me on Mastodon. That's better than Twitter. I'm gonna put that out there. Go get on Mastodon. Leave Twitter behind. You can do your goal chat on Mastodon now, and I'll show you how, Deb. And but pretty much you can also go to S3 for the E. So S3th.me is a one pager where it has all my links. So S3th.me. Of course, I'm a web designer. I have to have all the things.
Well, would you believe Mastodon has come up? This is the third time in 24 hours because I am having a real issue continuing my Twitter chat and looking for solutions. And this morning I started a LinkedIn group for Gold Chat as sort of like a stopgap. But I would love to, love to learn more about. Oh, yeah, we should have a conversation without people watching. I'd love that. Let's do it.
We'll chat. My people call your people.
Excellent. Michelle, where can people find you?
LinkedIn is my most active professional space. I use my full name when looking for me. So Google is going to be the easiest way, depending on what platform you're on. So I always like to meet people where they are. My most active will be LinkedIn, my website. I know Deb has in the show notes, marketingandevents.com. Also, managementandevents.com will also get you to the same spot. But the easiest way, I say, Michelle Nicole McNabb. If you put that into Google search,
you'll find her.
That's where my other content, whether you listen to podcasts, whether you're on TikTok or LinkedIn or Instagram, if you Google the name Michelle Nicole McNabb, include that middle name because there's a lot of Michelle McNabbs apparently, which is why I use my full name. Please call me Michelle. But if you're searching for me, Google Michelle Nicole McNabb and find based on whatever platform you resonate best.
Yeah, actually, real fast, Deb, if you look for Seth Goldstein, you're not going to find me on the first page. Don't hold me accountable for that. There's a lot of Seth Goldsteins, but Seth M. Goldstein, I rule that one. Seth M.
Exactly.
I rule the M because when I was a journalist, I made this conscious effort to say I as much as I hate the middle initial, I hate it. It's not in my lower third here. But Seth M. Goldstein, you will find me everywhere.
I love nothing more than a completely Googleable panel, of which we all are. I am at the Deb Method everywhere, and if you're curious about my writing, go ahead, Google Debra Eckerling. There's only one me. Thank you all so much for this wonderful conversation. We could keep going, I am sure, but in the interest of everyone's endurance, it's just about time to wrap. I would love a final thought from each of you. Brian, what is your final message?
Don't give up. Keep going. And when it starts to hurt, start to get tired, that's when you got to push the hardest. When no one's looking, got to work twice as hard. And just remember, keep doing that and do it consistently. Great things will happen.
Awesome. Love it. And Seth, what is your final thought?
Keep walking forward and watch where you're walking. More ways than one, but watch where you're walking, because you never know what you're going to miss or what you're going to step in when you have a dog. But that's besides the point. But always watch where you're walking, because you never know what's going to happen next, and don't want to miss it.
Awesome. And
Seth, Owen, watch where you're walking.
Well, move forward, watch where you're walking. And Michelle?
I would say define your own fulfillment, whatever that means to you, and really take some time to figure out what fulfillment means to you. That way you can set your own path to your own fulfillment, not based on somebody else's success and their path.
I love it and completely agree with you, because as you know, one of my favorite phrases, I will say it again, you can't get what you want unless you know what you want. Take the time to figure out what that is, make a plan, move forward, endure, and live the life you want. Thank you again so much, Brian Fishbach, Seth Goldstein, and Michelle Nicole McNabb. And whether you're watching or listening, thank you for choosing us and yourself to learn more about endurance and how you can better live the life you desire and deserve. So go on out there and go for it, because we know you can do it.